have this.
This 2021 surveillance video shows the moments leading up to the brutal ambush of 39-year-old Misty Hopkins.
Grease, either want to be hood. Even police say they raised in the hood. You weren't raised in the motherfucking thing because you'll be out here doing the same old thing. Matter of fact, you were raised in your motherfucking house. With your mama supervision hand, shot side, 5-5. That's the sound of the night.
What you're watching right now goes all the way back to a long-running rap beef that stretched over a decade in Broward County, Florida, and it completely spiraled out of control. Two innocent mothers ended up losing their lives in broad daylight, and neither one had anything to do with the tension tied to their sons. One woman was hit right outside her own salon, caught off guard in the hallway. The other was just sitting in a van in her own driveway when everything unfolded. And while families were still grieving, trying to make sense of it all, some of the people involved were online flexing and posting like it was entertainment on Instagram and Telegram. By the time federal authorities finally stepped in and shut things down, it had already turned into a full-blown crisis. 8 lives lost and 19 more close calls that could have ended the same way. A 16-year-old ended up facing adult charges, and even a 5-year-old got caught in the chaos of a drive-by. This wasn't just music anymore. It had gone way deeper than that. To really understand how those two mothers got pulled into something they never signed up for, you've got to rewind back to 2011 to a nightclub sitting right on the edge of two neighborhoods that never really saw eye to eye.
Y'all won't believe this shit, right? I pulled up at my little people's house and shit, right? So now when I go there, I knock on the door, they ain't there, they ain't answering the door. So son tell me just like, I know a bitch looking at me through the peephole. So I twist the peephole off, you feel me, the little peephole? I twist that bitch off. When I twist that bitch off, right, I look in there, I'm like, man, I see your ass right there.
Dania Beach, a small, tight-knit community barely covering 13 streets, where a young rapper named Psycho Bob, born Campbell Smart, was coming up around a circle that would later gain serious notoriety in South Florida. On the other side, you've got Hollywood in Liberia, the rival side of town. Just down the road lived another rapper, HMT Trey, born Trayvon Key, building his own crew and making a name for himself fast. Two neighborhoods, two rising names, and the people around them would spend the next 13 years locked in a non-stop back and forth that just kept escalating. It got so personal, so intense, that eventually it wasn't even about the original people anymore. It started pulling in those closest to them, people who had nothing to do with how it all began. And the wild part? This entire situation can be traced back to one moment, one incident that set everything off.
The guys, Glock 9, my nigga Psych, free my nigga Psych fools. You feel me? Free the guys, homie.
A robbery. Briscoe, real name Brait Alexander Mitchell, was a Miami rapper picking up serious momentum in the late 2000s. He had records with Lil Wayne, including one called In the Hood, and his name was buzzing in a way that made him instantly recognizable anywhere he went. But that same spotlight also made him a target. In late 2011, Briscoe got caught up in a robbery at a spot called Wars Lounge, a venue sitting right on the line between Dania Beach and Hollywood. It was known as neutral territory, where people from both sides would pull up and mix. Street talk pointed to an 18-year-old from Dania Beach, Eric Hunter, being behind it. No official charges ever stuck in that situation, but honestly, that didn't even matter at that point. A 20-year-old from Hollywood, Dean Brown, reportedly shared what he knew about Hunter's alleged role in that robbery with others.
You heard me, bitch fucking shooters, man. Pew, pew, pew. Hit a nigga all day, you heard me.
And somehow, that information made its way right back to Hunter on the street. In that kind of environment, being labeled as someone who talks comes with serious consequences. And things escalated fast. On December 10th, 2011, Dean Brown lost his life after being struck multiple times during a street party on Fippian Road near Wars Lounge around 1:30 in the morning, in front of a crowd of people. Witnesses pointed to Eric Hunter as the one responsible. And these two weren't strangers, they actually knew each other. Brown's mother later told reporters that Hunter had even been inside their home before, that she knew him personally and never imagined it would ever go this far. Authorities issued a first-degree warrant for Hunter, who was last seen driving a blue 2010 Nissan Altima with the tag 656YGW. Another individual, Christopher Jordan, was also
Fuck this New York shit up right quick. Hide it there, 5-0, what you doing? Take this bitch shit. Back door wide open, you know what I'm saying? Cut no business, cut no deal, go at the boss home hop. All in New York with it, man. Like, all in New York with it. Oh, yeah, you wanna lay back to the lay back, you won't never catch me at no damn airport, nigga. Very rich nigga. From the PJs to the PJs, you know what I'm saying? I don't really pump my shit like that. But trust me, I'm shit popping till I die. You want to lay back to the lay back. It's my brother's birthday man, happy birthday, my nigga Sight. We about to turn up. They finna let the Florida niggas in New York. Oh, they done fucked up.
But Hunter was never taken into custody for that case. Instead, he faded back into Dania Beach and stayed out of reach while the case slowly lost momentum. Meanwhile, Brown's mother was left speaking out publicly, asking for answers and hoping someone, anyone, would come forward with the truth. But no one did. The case went quiet. Hunter remained free, and the tension between Dania Beach and Hollywood, which had already been building, now had a real tragedy attached to it, making everything heavier and impossible to ignore. Then, 2 years later, in January 2013, things escalated again. 2 men from Dania Beach walked into an Exxon station in Hollywood attempting an armed robbery, and the situation turned intense fast. Their names were Corey Miller.
A Fort Lauderdale home standing quiet Thursday. The shades pulled down and the driveway empty. But only hours earlier, it was a crime scene. According to police, just after 6 p.m. Wednesday, officers responded to reports of a shooting at this home on Northwest 30th Way near 21st Street and found a woman in the front seat of a van in
23-year-old Corey Miller and 19-year-old Josh Summertime Stewart. That night, a man named Head Couric, who didn't even work there full-time, just helping out, noticed something off. He spotted them putting on masks behind the building and rushed inside to alert the clerk. The clerk, 45-year-old Leonard Carr, reacted instantly and got ready for what was coming. The moment Miller and Stewart walked in, everything happened fast. An exchange broke out and Corey Miller was hit multiple times and died at the scene. Stewart tried to take off, but he didn't make it far. Police caught him just blocks away. Because of Florida's felony law, Stewart was charged in connection with his partner's death since it all went down during an attempted robbery. At just 19, he was suddenly facing life behind bars, even though he wasn't the one who pulled the trigger. Authorities later ruled the clerk acted in self-defense, so no charges were filed against him.
I ain't gonna lie, this to eat the lap up with no hands for me.
And the fact that Miller lost his life during a robbery tied to a Hollywood business made everything hit even harder. It showed people this wasn't just some distant beef anymore. It was real, and it was dangerous on both sides. People started watching closely, keeping score, tracking every move. By around 2015, that tension started to look more organized. Eric Hunter, still free despite what went down in 2011, officially formed what became known as the On-Site Group, putting himself at the top under the name On-Site Eno. The name wasn't random. On-Site meant instant action, no hesitation, no warnings, just reacting the moment something popped off. The group made sure their presence was felt, building a reputation that spread fast, both in the streets and online. They ran a structured operation out of Dania Beach, tied to home break-ins, robberies, drive-by situations, and a growing image fueled by fear and social media attention. Among the members was a young rapper named Psycho Bob, who was already starting to get noticed. In 2015, Psycho Bob became directly involved in a serious situation with a man named Toby Barfield, alongside Hunter and others from the on-site group.
She did not deserve none of this.
This 2021 surveillance video shows the moments leading up to the brutal ambush of 39-year-old Misty Hopkins as she was walking to work at her waxing studio in Miami Gardens.
They shot her in her head, in the back of her head. That's a cowardly act.
Nearly 5 years later,
there is not a single shred of reasonable doubt in this case.
there is some justice for those who love the late Hopkins.
The defendant drove his car.
James Hardwick, the getaway driver during her execution, convicted Tuesday, found guilty of first-degree murder. The state attorney's office with this statement after the verdict. Gun violence and gang violence will not be tolerated. Misty Hopkins' innocent life was too high a price to be paid so that gang members could exact revenge against others for a perceived transgression. The mother of 8 was shot and killed at this business center on Northwest 27th Avenue near 175th Street, March 19, 2021, around lunchtime. The alleged shooter, Joseph Christoph, is in prison on unrelated charges. The family confident investigators will make more arrests soon, and everyone who is involved in this heinous murder will be brought to justice.
Once judgment is cast, whether by God or by the courts, they will pay a price.
Barfield was confronted, threatened with a weapon, and held against his will while a $30,000 demand was made to his family. Later, Psycho Bob admitted his role and took a plea deal that landed him 5 years of probation. That move kept him separate from the larger federal case that would eventually be built against Hunter. At the time, his cooperation stayed under the radar, but it becomes important later because it wasn't the only time someone from the Dania Beach side chose to work with authorities instead of rolling the dice in court. When federal investigators finally built a RICO case against the on-site group in 2021, everything started falling apart. Hunter stepped in as a cooperating witness and admitted involvement in 14 different incidents, including the 2011 case involving Dijon Brown, the same situation that sparked everything years earlier. In his statement, he tried to paint it as a personal issue rather than retaliation for someone speaking out. But by then, the original reason almost didn't matter anymore. The situation had already spiraled way past that. A full decade of back and forth had taken on a life of its own, growing bigger and messier with every incident. The more recent phase of this conflict, the part where innocent family members start getting caught up, really begins in 2020. That's when Psycho Bob came home from prison, this time with a Kodak Black label deal and way more attention than before. But when he returned, nothing had cooled
That's
off.
motherfucking freaky bitch. Fucking real woman. When flexing go wrong. Nah, fuck that. I'm gonna take this motherfucker. Help him stay. Fuck all that. I can't shoot a nigga tonight cause I'm too clean. I ain't shit. Everything looking good, bro. Shit looking good. Fuck. Y'all tell my brother Sight the Snipe get out the motherfucking car and take some pictures with me, man. Tell her get out the car and take some pictures with me, man.
If anything, the tension between Dania Beach and the Hollywood Liberia side had gotten even deeper and way more personal. Now, with ties to Kodak Black, one of the biggest names out of Broward County, Psycho Bob had a spotlight on him like never before. And that kind of visibility, it makes you stand out in ways rivals don't ignore. Then, in September 2020, things took another tragic turn when a young woman named Janice Lewis lost her life in an incident reportedly linked to individuals from the Hollywood side, marking a shift where people outside the original conflict were getting pulled in. At the time, people were actively looking for Psycho Bob, but Janice Lewis wasn't involved in any group, had nothing to do with the situation, and was never the intended target. She was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it cost her everything. Just a month later, in October 2020, things escalated again. A man named Sigmund Brown, known as Liberia Sig, was reportedly tied to an incident at the home of Psycho Bob's mother, Dorothy Smart, where she was seriously injured. She survived, but the message was loud and clear. It showed that people on the Hollywood and Liberia side were willing to take things beyond the main players and bring it straight to someone's front door. Then, on January 22, 2021, another major moment hit. Psycho Bob's close friend, Marquise Florence, lost his life in what was described as a targeted ambush, reportedly involving HMT Trey and Liberia Sig. Two other associates of Psycho Bob were also caught in that same incident, but managed to survive. For many watching this unfold, this was the turning point. This was the moment everything shifted, pushing Psycho Bob past whatever limits he had left and into a much more public and personal back and forth with his rivals.
Injured and shot in this shooting is a rapper by the name of Psycho Bob, and Psycho Bob has been active, we've seen on social media tonight. Meanwhile, we are hearing from those good Samaritans who stopped to help get those victims to the hospital.
A dangerous roadway shooting in broad daylight in Lauderhill. 3 men shot and injured. And late Monday night, Lauderhill investigators confirming.
When I looked him in his eyes, I know who that is.
We spoke to the Good Samaritans who were driving by right after the gunfire erupted, recognized the rapper, and stopped to help.
We just seen like the accident. I seen the guys getting out of their car, blood gushing out of them. It was just really traumatic to see.
Tristan was the one who drove them to the hospital.
I could hear one of the guys, like, you could hear the blood in his throat, like, as he's talking. So I'm trying to hurry up and get there.
According to Lauderhill investigators, someone in a black car started shooting at them while they were driving near State Road 7 and Sunrise Boulevard. The driver of the tan car tried to get away from the gunfire and in the process ended up crashing into other cars.
When the tan vehicle came to arrest, the black vehicle caught up to the tan vehicle and began shooting again at the occupants of the tan vehicle. The occupants of the tan vehicle at some point engaged in an exchange of gunfire with the black vehicle.
At that point, the black car sped away. Police are still looking for that black car and the people inside.
And from there, things started playing out where everybody could see it. This wasn't behind the scenes anymore. It was all over the internet. Going live on Instagram, dropping diss tracks, throwing out bold personal shots aimed directly at rivals and even their families. One of the most talked about tracks was called Stepdaddy, where he made a claim about Liberia Sig's mother and then doubled down online to make sure people knew he stood on it. What made it even heavier wasn't just the level of disrespect, it was who it was coming from. This was someone whose own mother had already been seriously hurt, someone who had already seen an innocent person lose their life in the middle of all this and still chose to push things further instead of stepping back. And in that kind of environment, bringing family into it comes with real consequences. Those consequences showed up on March 19, 2021. Misty Wilshire Hopkins was 39 years old and had built a full life for herself. She was raising 8 children, including a 2-year-old, and owned a successful waxing and laser hair removal business called Hair Free, located in the Clearview Business Center on Northwest 27th Avenue in Miami Gardens. On top of that, she had recently started a trucking company focused on building even more for her future. Friends described her as someone who always showed up, no matter what, and made people feel supported. Her only connection to any of this was simple. Trey was her son. That's it. Around lunchtime on March 19th, 2021.
Oh, cranky guys! We have ran across an Australian black Australian black black hole. It's amazing. It's amazing black hole. Look at the amazing black hole. Back up, get him. Wait, let me see. Get him. I know you can get him. What the? Look, man. Oh, bitch, I thought you still was in the car.
Misty Hopkins was walking back to her salon after grabbing food on the phone with a friend. As she stepped into the second-floor hallway outside Hair Free, a man in a black hoodie suddenly appeared. Her friend later said she heard Misty react in real time. "Wow, oh, you scared me. What are you here for?" And then, everything flipped in an instant. Moments later, multiple loud shots rang out over the phone. Misty was hit several times, suffering critical injuries, and collapsed right there in the hallway. The person responsible didn't take anything, didn't attempt a robbery, just turned and walked away, heading west across Northwest 27th Avenue in Miami Gardens. Surveillance cameras captured those final moments, making it clear this was targeted and intentional. Miami Gardens police launched an investigation immediately, setting up a Crime Stoppers tip line and offering a $5,000 reward, urging anyone with information to speak up. But even with that, the case stayed unsolved for over a year. During that time, Misty's family kept speaking out, trying to understand how something like this could happen in broad daylight in a place where people worked and felt safe. They couldn't wrap their heads around how someone with zero involvement could be pulled into something so serious just because of who her son was connected to. Then, finally, in April 2022, investigators caught a break. A 27-year-old man named James Hardwick was arrested and charged in connection to the case, bringing long-awaited movement to a situation filled with unanswered questions. Real lives, real people. Hardwick wasn't identified as the one who pulled the trigger, but as the driver who helped set everything in motion, reportedly doing it for payment. The man alleged to have carried it out, Joseph Christoph, was already in custody on unrelated charges at the time and was expected to face prosecution in the Hopkins case later. On December 17, 2025, James Hardwick was found guilty of a first-degree charge after a trial where prosecutors told the jury there wasn't a single piece of reasonable doubt. After the verdict, Miami-Dade State Attorney Catherine Fernandez Rundle spoke out, saying Misty Hopkins lost her life because of conflicts that had nothing to do with her. Her death, she explained, was far too high a price for something she was never part of. Misty's sister also spoke publicly, saying whoever was behind it had to be some kind of devil, making it clear the family still wants full accountability. For them, this case isn't finished until the person who actually carried it out faces justice too. While Misty's 8 children were left grieving and trying to process it all, the tension on the streets didn't slow down. Not long after her death, Psycho Bob showed up at a mall and, during a recorded confrontation, openly taunted about his mother, bringing something deeply personal into the spotlight. Within weeks, things escalated again on April 26, 2021.
But yeah, we have one victory. That's kind of how we feel at this point.
A family overwhelmed with emotions after verdict day for a man found guilty for his role in the murder of a Miami Gardens mother.
She was just an amazing soul, you know, and it's still unbelievable that she's not.
Psycho Bob and 2 others were driving through Lauderhill along North State Road 7 when 2 vehicles, a black BMW and a beige minivan, boxed them in from both sides. What followed was pure chaos, with action coming from multiple directions. Psycho Bob's group responded, and their vehicle ended up crashing into traffic during the madness, while the BMW circled back before speeding off. Then in September 2021, another shocking moment hit. Psycho Bob's close associate, known as Wiz the Wizard, real name Wisdom Williams, was found near an abandoned home in Hallandale Beach after suffering severe injuries in a case that still hasn't officially been solved. Then on December 15, 2021, HMT Trey was reportedly linked to an incident at Psycho Bob's home where loud shots were reported. Thankfully, no one inside was hurt, but it showed just how far things had gone. Through all of this, Psycho Bob stayed active online, posting non-stop, responding to rivals, and continuing to push things forward instead of stepping back. In early 2022, things finally caught up with him legally. He was pulled over for speeding, and authorities found a firearm in the car, leading to a federal charge. He was later sentenced to around 5 years in federal prison, and while he was still locked up, another devastating moment unfolded, this time involving his own mother. Dorothy Smart, 52 years old, known in her Fort Lauderdale neighborhood as Dee, was described the same way by everyone: kind, welcoming, always looking out for others. The type of neighbor who made people feel at home. Just like Misty, she had no criminal history, no ties to any groups, and no role in the conflict surrounding her son. Then around lunchtime on March 19, 2023, Dorothy was sitting in the driver's seat of her van in her own driveway when someone approached and suddenly opened fire. The back window shattered and she was hit multiple times. Nothing was taken. Just like in Misty Hopkins' case 2 years earlier, this was clearly targeted, carried out in broad daylight on a quiet residential street by people who knew exactly where they were going and what they came to do. Psycho Bob found out about his mother's death while still behind bars, a place where he likely couldn't attend her funeral or grieve the way most people would. On social media, reactions from rivals came fast, and they were cold. Some posted phrases like "long live" under photos of Dorothy Smart, turning something deeply personal into public disrespect. In private Telegram chats, individuals tied to the DHB group reportedly tracked incidents using emojis. Investigators later revealed symbols, including one representing elderly victims, were used to organize and keep count in a way that shocked a lot of people when it came out. One individual, Jared McCabe, also known as Hatch, even went live on Instagram reacting to Dorothy's death, showing zero concern about who might see it. That livestream later became evidence in a major case that led to charges against 8 people connected to the group. Still, just like with Misty Hopkins, the case didn't lead to immediate arrests and remained unsolved for some time, leaving families stuck waiting for answers. Then, on January 20th, 2024, another tragic moment unfolded, this time involving a 17-year-old high school football player, Terrence Farrington Jr., adding yet another heartbreaking layer to a situation that kept pulling in people who had nothing to do with how it all started. He lost his life in the parking lot of a Best Buy in Plantation. His family described him as loving, full of energy, with a bright future ahead, someone who had everything to live for. He wasn't the intended target, he was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, caught in a case of mistaken identity tied to an ongoing conflict that had nothing to do with him. But as devastating as his loss was, it led to a breakthrough that changed everything. Investigators recovered a fingerprint from a vehicle connected to the incident, and that vehicle traced back to Sigmund Brown, also known as Liberia Sig, a key figure in the DHB group. That one piece of evidence opened the door to something much bigger. The Broward Sheriff's Office Gang Investigations Task Force began digging deeper. Starting in February 2024, authorities began linking years of unsolved incidents, finally seeing how everything connected. What they uncovered wasn't just isolated events, it was something far more organized. After going through phones and Telegram chats, investigators described a highly structured operation, one that had been coordinating actions across Broward County for years. Messages revealed how targets were tracked, plans were made, and reactions were shared afterward in group chats with a level of confidence that made it seem like they never expected to face consequences. The events surrounding Dorothy Smart's case showed just how intense things had become. On December 20th, 2023, individuals identified as DHB members, Sigmund Brown, Keis Johnson, and Vonarius Davis, were accused of planning an attack and firing dozens of rounds into a building. Investigators later confirmed that incident had been mapped out through Telegram messages. Then, in January 2024, everything escalated fast. The chain of events that led to multiple arrests happened within just 2 weeks. On January 13th, Kavaris Johnson and a 16-year-old named Roger Rowe reportedly fired into a vehicle, aiming for a target. But instead, a 5-year-old girl, Serenity Smith, and a woman named Ika McLeod were hit. Neither had any connection to the situation. Then came January 20th, the tragic Best Buy incident involving Terrence Farrington Jr. Authorities say it involved Brown, Johnson, and a man named Gerard Charles, with 2 additional bystanders also caught in the chaos. Just days later, on January 28th, Johnson and Rowe were accused of another drive-by in Miramar, where Johnny Henderson lost his life and his girlfriend, Fancy Clark, was injured. That's 4 separate incidents in just 15 days, with innocent people, including a child, caught in the middle. And during that same time, those involved were still active online, posting and messaging on Telegram like nothing would ever catch up to them. But eventually, it did. On November 13, 2024, the Broward Sheriff's Office, alongside the State Attorney's Office, announced a major breakthrough. 8 individuals tied to the DHB group were arrested under a 33-count indictment. The charges were serious and wide-ranging. 8 first-degree counts, 19 attempted counts, racketeering, conspiracy, firearm offenses, and communications linked to planning and reacting to these incidents. Those charged included Sigmund Brown, Kavaris Johnson, Gerard Charles, Vonarius Davis, Tyreek Jackson, Jared McCabe, Trayvon Key, also known as HMT Trey, and Roger Rowe, who was just 16 at the time of several of the alleged incidents and was prosecuted as an adult. With the indictment, prosecutors made it clear they believe these acts were carried out to benefit the group and strengthen its influence. Each charge laid out in detail connected years of incidents into one larger case. HMT Trey was listed in Count 1, tied to the case involving Wiz the Wizard, whose remains were found in Hollandale Beach back in September 2021 under disturbing circumstances. Dorothy Smart's case was listed as Count 6, and the Best Buy incident involving Terrence Farrington Jr. was marked as Count 7. What really stood out to investigators was the level of detail recovered from phones and Telegram accounts. They described it as rare to see this much evidence in one place. Records showing coded emoji tracking, messages reacting immediately after incidents, and even live streams where individuals openly mocked what had happened. There were also detailed conversations laying out plans for specific situations, all saved directly on personal devices, almost like a digital trail of everything that had been going on. As of early 2026, no final verdicts have been reached in the DHB case, and the legal process is still ongoing in Broward County courts. What started back in 2011 with a single robbery at a nightclub eventually turned into something much bigger, ending with 2 mothers losing their lives, one inside her workplace, the other in her own driveway. Neither had anything to do with the conflict surrounding them. Misty Hopkins left behind 8 children, her youngest just 2 years old at the time, a family forced to grow up without her. Dorothy Smart left behind a son who got the news while sitting in a prison cell, unable to be there, unable to say goodbye. That's the kind of moment that stays with someone forever. James Hardwick, the driver linked to the Hopkins case, was found guilty in December 2025 and sentenced to life in prison. Joseph Christoff, accused of carrying it out, remains in custody on separate charges and has yet to go to trial specifically for that case. Meanwhile, the individuals charged in connection with Dorothy Smart's death are still awaiting trial, as the process continues to unfold. And all of this leaves one bigger question. How far does it have to go before people realize none of it is worth it? Not the lives lost, not the families destroyed, not the freedom gone forever. What do you think about this case? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, tap one of the videos on your screen right now.